All right, welcome to Cardinal AMA. We got Michael from Mosh here, really diving into everything Mosh is doing. I think it's going to be some exciting talks here. And if you guys are familiar with Cam has actually been a big part, I know, in connecting us and sharing a little bit about what Mosh is doing, so we can get them on here and have them speak to you guys. But um, let's go ahead and just dive right in with a quick intro from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for hosting us, and everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name is, again, Michael, representing Mosh here. Mosh is a music NFT royalty marketplace with a focus on uh, experiences for fans. So we go beyond the royalties and really, just focus on creating digital experiences for fans through NFTs.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys I know have a lot, and I do want to dive like super deep into everything you guys are doing and how you guys are doing it. But first, I like to start it off with a little bit of a couple icebreakers. I think it can get really repetitive hopping on AMAs or hopping on and just kind of sharing what your project is. Um, so I like to kind of gather your expertise in the industry and just chat a little bit. Um, but just one real quick one. What's your experience in Web3? How long have you been here for? And can we touch just very briefly on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I started off as a collector on Nifty Gateway as an art collector towards like the end of 2020. So I was fortunate enough to be around for kind of seeing the PFP boom come around and
Mm-hmm.
everything in between. Um, but I really started working in the space probably the summer of 2021.
Yeah.
A couple of good buddies and I got together and we launched a PFP collection called Hall of Fame Goat Lodge. We actually got the same illustrator who had drawn all of the Bored Ape characters from Bored Ape Yacht Club to partner with us, and he drew a bunch of these cartoon goats for our collection. And our whole concept was throwing a music festival as kind of like a roadmap piece if we were to sell out. So
Mm-hmm.
the collection did sell out. We hosted the music festival in March of 2021 in Las Vegas. It was a 2-day, 2-stage, 20 DJ festival where the GOAT was your ticket in. We had Blau headline, if you guys are familiar with him. Um, and it was just like a big Web3 bash kind of thing. And then we hosted a bunch of events all over the country. Besides that, for that collection, things NFT NYC, NFT LA, Bitcoin Miami, Deep Denver, all those kind of things. So spent a bunch of time working on that. That collection's still pretty active. There's still people in the Discord and still some trading that goes on, which is great to see almost 2 years later. And in between that time, kind of worked as a dev consultant and helped other IPs with things like smart contracts or minting. Um, but eventually, landed on Mosh. I met my co-founders actually at the festival that we hosted in Vegas, um, and it's just been music focused since then.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That is awesome stuff. So you have a little bit of experience now, a few years in both Web3 and then music as well. Can we take a step back from just your experience? I want to dive a little bit deeper just into kind of some thoughts on a couple, not rapid fire, but just a couple of general questions and kind of hear what your opinions are. Like I think it's always an interesting chat, kind of hearing from individuals with coming from a different place or with different experiences and kind of hearing your take on a couple of these topics. But to start, I really just want to dive into what industry in Web3 do you think is going to be the first to boom? Not that there hasn't already been a boom, but I'd say to boom into mass adoption.
I think personally, I think it's digital artwork, and I think it sort of has already kind of crept
Mm-hmm.
its way into mainstream adoption through auctions at legacy auction houses, Sotheby's, Christie's, all that kind of stuff. I do think that music is kind of second in line as far as like mass adoption of NFTs go. I think that music just being so digital nowadays, and being listened to digitally, shared digitally. It really lives in this digital world. Um, Whereas, maybe 20 years ago it was a lot more rooted in real life, like going to in-person concerts, buying records, buying CDs. Um, so right now I'm seeing music as a way for just fans and musicians to be able to participate in crypto and Web3 and NFTs, and music kind of being the Trojan horse to get them into that scene. Um, Whereas I think digital art was and is that Trojan horse for a lot of people.
Mm.
During 2020, 2021. I think it's going to shift over to music, but I still think digital art is going to be leading the way for a
Yeah.
while. And then gaming, I think, is going to be the third big one. And I think like gaming is going to be the one where once it really takes off, it's going to be a game changer for the industry and everyone in it.
Yeah, you have an interesting take on kind of the artwork. We've hit like kind of stage one, where people have already purchased it, and or we had like a big influx of users, I guess, but it was all for investments, right? There weren't a lot of people coming in and actually admiring a lot of the art yet. But the capabilities have been shown that, hey, this is the tech that can actually back up what the need is. And you also made another really good point that we're kind of leaving the age of a lot of physical, and moving a lot more into software versus hardware, right? So you now can instantly stream from your phone. You can instantly stream any kind of music. You can listen to it right away. It's the whole age of the digital world is really becoming a lot more prevalent. So a really interesting point there. What do you think? What role do you think, within the music and art industry, NFTs versus tokens are gonna play?
I think they both have a really important role in what's going on. I'm more bullish on the NFT side of things myself, just being a collector, and I've been a DeFi participant for a while and stuff. I think that NFTs are sort of easier for the masses to wrap their head around versus
Hmm.
like how like an ERC20 or other crypto
Yeah.
token might fit into music. And I think that really like what's gonna change the game is going to be people interacting with music NFTs without them knowing that it's an NFT on the back end. Like
Hmm.
the app layer that is being built over, the crypto protocols is what's going to spark the boom for people using these products.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think it's certainly easier to grasp an NFT than some random token that has very it's really hard for people to understand that for some reason. Um but we'll have to see how the next few years change things. But yeah, no, I love the context that you're giving on this. When do you think will be like like, let's talk a little bit of timelines. When do you think we'll hit a point where artists are coming to Web3, and why? When and why do you think artists will be coming to Web3 to kind of push out the works? And then we'll dive into Mosh afterwards.
My personal thesis is that artists are going to kind of slowly trickle in for now, and as some of the bigger names kind of co-opt this technology and have successful releases, more and more up and coming artists are going to join. I think the big barrier to entry right now is interacting with crypto wallets. For a lot of
Hmm.
people, I know that my friends who aren't into NFTs or aren't into crypto but are into music, a lot of them have expressed me that they have a lot of trouble, getting started with MetaMask or keeping a seed
Hmm.
phrase. So I think that once a lot of the friction of just interacting with NFTs is removed, on whatever timeline that might be, it's kind of hard to like project
Hmm.
that. But whenever that does happen, I think that we're going to see the floodgates open up, so to speak, and a lot of people pour in and participating um, with NFTs, whether it's music or artwork or anything. Because I mean, I probably would not have gotten into NFTs in the way that I did had it not been for Nifty Gateway. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with them, and not to show them too much, but their whole thing was making it easy to purchase with a credit card. And I know,
Mm.
a lot of people in my life were onboarded through that, and then kind of slowly trickled into, minting things using OpenSea, and kind of learning more about the inner workings of how do you mint from a contract? How do you, all that kind of stuff? Because the learning curve is so long. So I think having like a really easy onboarding process is what's going to kick things off.
Yeah, yeah. I 100% agree there. We have people that we're working with now making transactions easy. I think is like that first step, right? Like onboarding in off on and off ramping from crypto is a huge barrier for a lot of people. And I get it. It took a long time for me to learn, what the heck I was doing with that too. And it probably took 2 months until I realized I was doing everything incorrectly. And I was like, oh, it's actually way simpler than I thought. Um, but I just went around it the long way. But 100%. Um, do you mind diving a little bit deeper now, kind of branching from a couple of these questions? Do you mind diving a little bit deeper into your story, your personal story, and how you got to Mosh?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to like working with NFTs or working in Web3, I was a sound engineer
Hmm.
for like live shows, specifically in EDM. And then COVID came around, so everybody I knew in the festival industry pretty much lost their business that year. And lo and behold, that's when I discovered NFTs and sort of thought of it as a way that maybe some of these companies groups can still make money during the pandemic, and kind of went down the rabbit hole from there. Um, but for me, a lot of my friends are artists, musicians, creatives, and it's been interesting to see a lot of their lives kind of change through this technology, which
Hmm.
is why I've been sticking through, all the ups and downs and all the craziness of the industry, with really the goal of creating something that helps kind of my friends and my tribe, so to speak. Um, so yeah, I think it was the 2 or 3 years prior to 2021. I was touring a lot. I was in college at the time, but just going state to state, setting up a sound system, running the show for DJs. So that's like a little bit more about my background. If you have any specific questions too, I'm an open book, so I'm happy to speak on anything.
Yeah, so you said that you were a sound engineer. Where what does that entail? Were you working with artists? I'm not really sure. I don't know too much about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, good question. So I was doing like live sound mixing. So like if you have ever been to a concert and you see those guys in front of house, kind of behind the computers in front of the stage, like next to like the light guys, we pretty much just make sure that the DJ is not blowing up the sound system or he's not coming out too quiet, and so just like setting different levels on the soundboard to make sure that the venue sounds good.
Gotcha, gotcha. That definitely makes sense. Well, awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff. So you went from, just kind of being completely involved in music, got into Web3 a little bit, and then now we're starting up Mosh. What was how, like, talk a little bit about how that all connected into realizing that Mosh is a needed product before diving into exactly what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think talking to a lot of the artists who played my music festival, it was called NFT Moonfest in Vegas. So we had NFT in the name. It was a completely Web3 focused event. But talking to a lot of those guys and figuring out what was kind of holding them back from getting their music out there and getting it into more hands and just being more successful, really, because like when we built that lineup, we focused on having a lot of Web3 native artists come play. So it was a lot of people who had already sold NFTs, whether they were music NFTs or art focused NFTs, whatever it may have been. Um, but I think that when you work with a lot of musicians and they're your buddies and you're in the studio, kind of seeing their process and just hanging out. Um, like me personally, I kind of just empathize with the grind and the struggle, because the fact of the matter is that most musicians really don't make any money, especially if you're up and coming or if you're just getting started. It's incredibly difficult to sell your work. So like I think right now it's something like if you sell one ETH worth of music royalty, and if they're music NFTs in general, that equates to something like 1 million streams on Spotify. Um, or some large number like that. So creating like the infrastructure or a way for these creators to one get their work out more and two feed themselves and have a way to make a living is I think really like my main motivation behind building Mosh.
Hmm. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's a super, I'd say it's a super solid goal to have. It's certainly something I don't have as much experience with, just not being as involved in the music industry, but I definitely, you're not the first person I hear that talks about the problems regarding it. Looking at platforms like I done a lot of research on platforms like Audius and the way that they're going about things. Why don't we dive a little bit more into like how what is Mosh doing exactly, and how are you solving the problems that you've noticed in kind of the reason for starting up the business?
Yeah, the thing I'm really excited about is the custodial wallet solution that we've built.
Mm,
So the way that Mosh works from like a custody standpoint is that if one you can check out with the credit card for any of these music NFTs. So we're kind of trying to remove the friction of setting up MetaMask and getting ETH for the first time and holding your keys and all of that by just taking all that out of the user's hands. So you can log in with an email, check out with the credit card, and if you want, your NFT will be stored in Mosh's custodial wallet. We do value self custody a lot, so you're also able to just check out with your crypto wallet and then self custody your NFTs. And if you do choose to use Mosh's custodial wallet, you're able to withdraw your NFT to your own self custody wallet at any time. So that I think that aspect of Mosh is going to be a game changer for the industry. Once artists have like a frictionless way to be able to sell their music to their existing fan bases who maybe aren't big on Web3, I think that's going to open up a lot of onboarding for fans who maybe are interested in NFTs or have heard about them but don't really know how to go about them. Having their favorite artists.
hello, let me bring you back up. I'm not sure what happened there. Hello.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm not sure if you disconnected or it just moved you down for some reason.
Not sure. Where did I cut off?
Just you like literally just the last sentence. Like it was maybe 3 seconds or something.
Okay. Well, so ultimately, not to get too long winded, one of the big things I'm excited about is the credit card checkout and the custodial wallet.
Hmm.
Um, but beyond that, we're experimenting with a bunch of different drop mechanics, things like a loot box style NFT drop, where it's almost like a digital pack of trading cards where you don't know which song you're going to get out of a bunch.
Hmm.
Um, and then kind of pairing that with different artist utilities, different ways to potentially gamify things through social buying. Like you can pool funds with friends and buy NFTs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So how are you guys? So I know you're talking about song ownership. So I like the feature that you have. Firstly, to purchase credit cards and all that stuff, it makes it a lot more accessible for sure. But what is the what is the main thing that Mosh is doing for somebody that has like zero context? How are you guys, connecting? I know you talked about disrupting the music industry, and allowing fans and communities to actually interact with artists differently. How are you guys doing this? What is it that you guys actually do at your core?
I think it's really leveraging our founding teams like core businesses. So, for example, my co-founders, like their main business is 3D scanning. So they have these 3D scanner machines that create photorealistic avatars of you, and we're able to leverage that with Mosh by creating avatars of musicians, fans too, and opening the door to these like photorealistic, digital interactions that we sort of bundle as like additional utilities on top of the royalties. that are associated with the NFT. So it's kind of like right now there's not very many avenues for artists to even sell um, the royalty streams as NFTs. So just making that easier and then pairing that with uh, like a platform approach to delivering utility and perks and benefits to their fan bases is really our whole
Gotcha.
for Motion.
Gotcha. And you guys, so you guys are working with, working with artists to allow them to sell songs, correct? And to the potential, to their fans and potential investors, for their music. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like, does an artist just come in and say like, "Hey, I want to sell this song and any revenue"? Like, how does that whole process work?
So there's a couple steps to it. One thing when you're looking at the music industry and rights holders, that's kind of like an involved process is actually clearing the rights. So if somebody comes to Mosh and says, we want to, I made the song, I want to, sell 50% of the royalties on Mosh. One of the things that we have to do is go through like the legal like legwork to make sure that that person owns the song and that our customers, when they buy that token from us, have some level of legal rights to actually get their royalties.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of acting as an agent in that transaction, and essentially connecting the rights holder to the end consumer. Um, but like beyond the rights clearing, it's pretty straightforward to onboard. It's picking a song, it's picking the level of involvement that an artist wants to have in the drop. That could be anything from simply giving up the royalties and making them available to being active in their own Discord and getting on these AMAs like we're doing now, or doing meet and greets online or in person. But the big thing really is just making sure that the rights holder does own the rights, and we cover all that too. Because in a lot of instances, it's not even always clear to the rights holder, right? Like you can be a producer who participated in making a song, and you own some percentage of it, but there's potentially different stipulations and contracts that you might have to consider if you're giving up those rights and selling them or whatever it may be. So we essentially make that easy for artists.
Gotcha. So you're taking from step one of, hey, is this your song, all the way through all the legal side. You guys are almost like a label in yourself, facilitating this transference of ownership, right?
Sort of, and we work, not only with artists but also, groups that own catalogs, whether those be
Mm,
investment groups, labels, distributors. So if you're, a private equity company that bought a catalog a couple of years ago, we're still able to take that and work with you, all the way down to like an independent artist who's making music in their bedroom.
awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff. So how does what possibilities does the artist just set their own price for their investment? Is that something that you guys weigh in on and kind of set an asking price? Like what is the actual how are the details for that decided?
It's really on a case by case basis. If you're an artist or a rights holder and you come to us, we we always have suggestions on what we think would help them reach their goals the best. But ultimately, I think leaving creative control, and especially in the case of an artist, more so than like an investor group or a label or something, it's really important to everything, right? Like our goal isn't just to sit around and like sell royalties or sell songs. It's to help these artists build their digital communities, stay connected with them, beyond just selling an NFT. But yeah, like ultimately, you if you're a rights holder, you do have most of the creative control. If somebody wants to go sell something for $5 million, it's something that we'll try to talk them out of it. But ultimately, it's up to the artist.
Yeah. Yeah, just a random no name trying to come in and sell their first album for 5 million. Um yeah, I'm sure that isn't the most beneficial for the platform either. Um so are most of the most of the people that you're bringing in, are they artists that you're just connecting with? Is it more so on connecting with different catalogs? Like what's the main form that you guys are really using for um the people, for getting these potential not necessarily just investors, but on the other end, potential suppliers of art and music.
Yeah, right now we're casting a really wide net, so we're not really niching down into a particular genre
Hmm.
or category of music. Um, Recently, we do we did have a label approach us from Miami who's got a big Spanish catalog, so we're working to see how we can work with them to, it would be something like a 5-part release for a bunch of like high profile Spanish music. Um, but it goes from that to people like TikTok and Instagram influencers who have songs out on Spotify to bedroom producers who make beats for DJs and rappers. So right now we're really not excluding anybody as far as who we're bringing on.
Hmm. Gotcha. Okay, so you guys are just kind of opening up to everybody. Um, Long term, what's the long term vision behind what you want this platform to become?
Ultimately, just a like an engine for any rights holder to monetize their rights up front, or any creator to have a process for selling their stuff easily. So I guess really like a one-stop shop for music, right? Like we're building out our marketplace. My plan is to aggregate like music NFTs from other marketplaces too and make them
Hmm.
available on Mosh. So if you're looking for NFTs from Sound or like Royal or something, my goal is to aggregate all that to Mosh. And I really love what Blur has done with their bids and the amount of liquidity that's added to a lot of collections that otherwise it might take a couple of days if you want to sell an NFT. I think that instant sale, uh, that possibility is really powerful for collectors and investors, and even creators, right? Like through Blurbids as a creator too, like you have the opportunity to kind of play around with tokenomics a little bit. You can set your own floor price, by putting bids out on Blur if you wanted to do that. I saw recently somebody did something interesting where they had an NFT mint for a physical product, and they took all the mint funds and put them into Blur bids for that collection, so that essentially you could return your NFT for the same price that you paid for it at any time. So I think messing around with concepts like that and testing out things, um, as far as aggregating liquidity, aggregating different collections from different platforms all in one easy to use place, and then slapping the easy credit card processing on top of that, and the custodial wallet to really just make it like the easiest place to go for
Yeah,
NFTs in
yeah.
the music space.
I think it's I mean Web3's brought a lot of pieces, namely with accessibility being I mean accessibility is just a huge thing that Web3 allows for. And a lot of what it sounds like are even very small creators, if they have 100, even 100, or even just I mean, really ideally like you'd have more, but if you had 100 people that loved every single piece of content you created, you can be supported, right? And if they, absolutely like, and I mean like don't want to give up on hearing your music every week, like you could have them kind of sponsoring you in essence to continue to create. And so it's definitely an interesting concept. Um and it makes it more accessible than just having, the top 100 artists be able to make a living off of off of music. Um but yeah, I think it's really really cool what you guys are building. What is the can you explain a little bit more in depth the you said putting it in like a I forget what you called it, but funds like the mint funds all being put into some other location. How would a like an artist actually benefit from that if they were, selling the rights to their songs without collecting on um the sale?
Right. That example is more of like a for instance on
Mm,
some of the potential with new developments like Blur.
Gotcha.
So I don't have like a particular use case in mind for an artist,
Mm.
placing bids on their collection like that right now. But I think that just like the concept of pulling all the liquidity that you might have on one song into uh, something like a blur bid system has a ton of potential. So it's not something that we're going to launch with. Our marketplace is going to just be focused on really the credit cards and the custodial wallet. But down the
Yeah.
road, I think that we have a lot of ideas and room for like things like gamification and seeing how we can introduce concepts like points and prizes to holders based on real world performance of songs, and really thinking along those lines.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That definitely makes sense. So, as far as the card, can you tell me a little bit more about the wallet that you're talking about? Are you guys integrating with some third party wallet? Are you creating your own? How does that all work?
This is our own in-house custodial wallet. We hope to make it available to others after we get a little bit more users using it and get some more testing under our belts. I think that it's one of the more underrated and underserved parts of Web3. I don't like. There's a couple companies that do it, but it's definitely not widely adopted.
Hmm.
So we're hoping to become potentially down the road the third party that lets you get a custodial wallet. But right now it's all us.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And then is there a way that you can actually send those assets to a non-custodial wallet? Because obviously that's a big piece on what Web3 is founded on, or is the plan just to have it um, be custodial in the future?
Nope. One of the core features is that you can withdraw the NFT to any wallet that you want. So
Gotcha.
I like to me personally as like a ETH investor and
Yeah.
person in crypto, you know self custody and not your keys, not your coins is a really
Hmm.
important kind of mantra to me. And so we pretty much throughout the whole life cycle of Mosh, I think we're going to be focusing heavily on making sure collectors, creators can all maintain their self sovereignty as they participate
Mm.
in what we're building.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I like that. That's definitely some awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff. I got a couple questions coming in that I'll throw out here. Um, as we go through. Can you talk about the open and closed mixtape?
Yeah, so one of our drop mechanics that we've built is it goes by mixtapes. The concept is that you buy a token from us, and then you burn that token, and you get one of 10 songs and the associated royalties. So you could end up with a song that's like a really high performer commercially, or you could end up with something that might not be as commercially successful. So there's less royalty. So it's a little bit like a loot box style.
Yep.
Um,
That's
yeah,
great.
we
That's
got some
great.
we got some inspiration from like the PFP projects and like the whole the reveal, and you get your rarities. And as somebody who's degen minted so many of PFPs, I personally do like that randomization and kind of like the fun of, oh, did I get a good one, or is it a floor piece? So we're really excited to be bringing that to the music side of things.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that's awesome. Um, and then once you have an open mixtape, you would just have access to those songs. Um, when you're purchasing a song, are there any requirements? Are you guys requiring any kind of KYC? I don't know how that all works, or is it completely decentralized where as long as you purchase the NFT, you guys are facilitating it so that they have full ownership to the rewards from that song?
No KYC. We do have like a mint limit on wallets, so you're not
Mhm.
able to mint $30,000 worth of NFTs in a primary sale or something.
Mm.
And we do offer like a direct to contract mint. So if you don't want to sign up with the email and you just want to log in with MetaMask and mint with your wallet, we make that available too. So you can sort of sidestep anything that has goes down on the Mosh platform besides minting really. And I guess theoretically you could just mint from the contracts.
Yeah.
Um, so it is essentially decentralized if you want it to be, but we offer that self custody in case you don't really care about maintaining a wallet. You just want just that you own a token.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And then are you guys launching using Ethereum primarily? Is there another network you're looking at? What's your guys' plan there?
So we'll be launching on Polygon.
Okay.
Um, because we have the custodial wallet solution, the fees on Ethereum that we would be paying for our users are just prohibitively high.
Mm-hmm.
So Polygon is our network.
Gotcha. Awesome. Um, no, it all it all sounds like it makes a lot of sense. Um, with everything in mind, I know you said that you plan on sticking with music. Are there any bigger plans for moving outside the music industry? I know there are a couple other groups that are creating things for streaming, for YouTubers, for that kind of thing for essentially other creators with other say in other industries. Or do you guys plan on sticking to the music side and seeing how far you can take that?
I think initially we're really going to be focused on music. I do have just like some personal friends out in California who are like producers for like shows that you might see on Amazon Prime, and I've talked to them about the potential of doing something like a Amazon series royalty NFT.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been mostly just kicking the can around in ideas. So there's potential that we move into something like that way down the road, but I think that we
Yeah.
want to really perfect the music side first before going into anything else.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And when I'm not sure how this works, like disbursements for, let's say a song makes X amount of money. Would they put their song up like on Spotify? Like, what's the process for an artist, um, on that?
So it's pretty flexible, right? Like if you're an artist who has an existing song that's been already out in music stores on Spotify and Apple Music, it's already generating royalties, so that's pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
If you don't even want to distribute your song to the music stores, though, we can work with that too and really focus on the NFT portion of it, right? And kind of cut out the royalties all the way. So we're not going to be limited to just royalty NFT drops. We know there's a lot of artists who want to have complete creative control over a release, and if they don't want to offer royalties, we accommodate for that. So we do have products made that cover just the collectible side of music NFTs, where you get the token and the artist can add whatever utilities or participation that they kind of want to build on top of that.
Mhm.
But if it's a new song too, we can help distribute to the music stores. If you're an artist who hasn't gotten their music on Spotify yet, too, our distributor partner can get them published across all the music stores. And the way payouts work is that it's I think it leads like 6 months. So you'll get a token. You'll have to wait to kind of see the real world performance.
Yeah.
The music stores will pay out the distributor. The distributor pays us out, and then in turn, we're actually able to dump the funds right into our contract, and then it pays you out on chain.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So it's you said every did you say something 6 months or
Yeah,
how?
like biannually is about the time we're targeting
Got
for
it.
most of the royalty payouts. But there's always some flexibility there too, and in the future it could be on different frequencies.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm sure it depends on how often that they're getting disbursements from their music and that kind of thing as well. How do you guys how do you all measure the amount of I'm not sure how this would go, but if there's a concert, how would you guys measure, what amount of revenue is generated by a certain song, or is that completely separate? Right? Because if
So,
you're go ahead.
yeah, as of right now, we're focused on mechanical royalties, so that covers royalties from streaming mostly.
Okay.
So we're not really dabbling in like performance rights or anything like that. And the streaming is pretty straightforward because you get revenue numbers from the music stores and streaming numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all standardized.
Gotcha. So are you guys individually kind of giving rights for? I know there are different platforms that kind of I'd say, I guess you might call them like a catalog that aggregates for streaming, specifically so people pay memberships, they have access to all these, the rights for YouTube and things like that. Are you guys working with any platforms on that level, or do you have any plans to?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so there's certain platforms where you can go and get, copyright free, not really copyright free, but they will you'll purchase the rights with some kind of monthly subscription to use any music in their catalog on YouTube videos, on streams, on things like that, and you basically get the right to do so. Do you guys have any plans as far as your business? I don't know. Are you guys the one putting it on, like listing it to the with the distributors, or is that something an artist does? Like I'm not. I'm just not 100% sure how the music industry works like this, especially if you guys are kind of taking that intermediary role.
Yeah, our role is really like a conduit between the rights holder and the collector. So we're like Mosh as an entity isn't really distributing anything to the music stores. Our distributor and label partner can do that for musicians, so that's not really a core thing that we do.
Hmm.
It is something that I think at this point most musicians have sort of figured out. To a point, there's a lot of services now. Like I think DistroKid for $20 a year, $20 a month or something, you can use them to go self-publish to all the music stores. Um, but we're really focused on really just acting as a bridge between the rights holder and the collector. So
Gotcha.
it's really like the rights holder who's selling their rights directly to the collector rather than Mosh essentially.
Hmm. Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And then do you guys? How is your contract written up in a way that you can either burn or I guess. So this is something I've seen in a couple contracts, and I ask this because you guys are really going for the user friendly route. If an NFT is sent to a dead wallet, is there any way for you guys to get that back, or is that NFT gone? Is there a way for you guys to remint it, for example, um, and burn the rewards going to that dead wallet, or how does that work?
Not really. So it's still, kind of behaves the same way as most of the, NFTs you'll interact with on
Okay.
Ethereum. I know that Algorand, they have something where you can like reissue NFTs and call them back and things like that. But
Hmm.
with us, it's really more like the legacy NFTs that you see now, where if you self custody it and then you lose it, that's kind of it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough. Do you guys have any plans to switch that up? Just something I'm kind of curious about, or is this something you guys want to kind of keep as is?
I think that we're going to kind of more focus on education and trying to prevent people if they have a self custody wallet from doing that, or
Hmm.
encouraging users who are maybe unsure of self custody wallets just to rely on our custodial wallet because the risk of somebody burning. No, it's HF, right? Um, like the risk of somebody losing their NFT in the self custody wallet isn't low.
Hmm. Gotcha. Yeah. No, it definitely makes sense. So yeah, to answer your question, Cheetos, it is gone. Um, Next up, um, if you have ownership to the revenue, is it purely just like um a revenue share model, or do you actually partially own that song? Right? Does that make sense?
So it's more that you have like a beneficial interest in the royalty stream.
Okay.
Like the legal aspect of it,
Hmm.
ownership is tricky with copyrights. There's not really a way to fractionalize copyright.
ownership.
There's not like a
Mm,
legal mechanism in the U.S. to do that. It's all or nothing for the most part. So like
gotcha.
the nitty gritty of it is that you're purchasing a beneficial interest in the royalty stream of the mechanical royalties.
Yeah. Okay. I know it gets super convoluted at some point with music and film specifically. um so it's something I'm not extremely well versed in, but interesting to kind of hear a little bit more about it. Um Overall, I think we've covered a good amount here. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you really wanted to get into with regarding Mosh?
I think we covered all of like the main points.
Yeah.
I would love to hear if there's any questions in the audience, uh, or if there's any feedback, or if anybody has any
Yeah,
thoughts.
we've been getting a couple questions that I've been asking as we've gone. Um Simon, just to answer your question, which he kind of Michael kind of answered it. But the reason they're launching on Polygon is because they have their wallet that is not self custodial, which you have the option of using. You can use MetaMask or something along those lines, but you have the option of using their wallet, and the fees on something like Ethereum would be way too high. As far as using Polygon over something like Avalanche or something else, I'm not 100% sure. I think was it just the one that you guys decided to go with?
Yeah, I've like we did an analysis across all the different
Mm-hmm.
chains. We chose Polygon for a couple reasons, some technical, some relationship based, based on people we know who work at Polygon. Um, but ultimately, I think that as of right now, Polygon still has more NFT wallets than something like Avalanche, and that could always
Mm-hmm.
change in the future.
It's hard to know for sure.
It is. Polygon's growth has been really impressive
Mm-hmm.
these last couple of years, and the fact that brands like Starbucks, Reddit, um, all trust Polygon to handle their Web3 backend infrastructure stuff. I think speaks to just their product and their ecosystem. So we're glad to
Yeah.
be working with them.
Awesome. Awesome. Love to hear it. Um, and then when how are you guys are making your revenue? Are you guys keeping a percentage of sales? Are you guys just charging a fee for artists listing their music? What is your guys' model?
Right now, it's taking a percentage of sales on the primary and a bit on the secondary market on the
Hmm.
royalties based on some of the current deals we have. But it's always, I think, flexible on a case by case basis, right? Like if the rights holder comes in and they have a certain offer, a certain ask, but we're a young scrappy startup, so we're able to accommodate and build quickly and build around the needs of our users.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. No, it makes a lot of sense. Um, Kind of getting into the last couple questions here. By the way, it was recorded, so I'll have that posted here. Where you need any, I think is how you pronounce it. When whatever whenever a song we purchase plays online, how we can purchase. Okay, so are there any requirements before purchasing a song? I don't think so. That is like you guys are just facilitating that, so you would just go to your site and be able to do that, correct?
You have no real requirement. I mean, if you want to self custody it, a crypto wallet. If you don't, just an email and a credit card is really all you need.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on artists in the future, if an artist wants to do something that's like token gated or allow listed, we have the capability to help them do that. So, like, it's a potential requirement. Um, but our goal is to make it as frictionless as possible to buyers.
Mm, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the overall theme from this chat is you guys are just trying to make it extremely easy to on and off ramp, especially with the niche you're in. It's super important. A lot of liquidity is sitting on the sidelines just because people don't want to have to deal with it. um yeah, I really like the focus there. What type of payment do you guys accept for song purchases? Can you pay with other crypto? My guess, Simon, is if it's on Polygon, you guys don't accept something like BNB, correct? There's no cross chain swap integration, right?
As of right now, there's not. So it's in its current form. It's actually USDC on Polygon if you're self custodying or just be out with a credit card. But in the future, I think we're going to look into accepting cross chain payments.
Yep, yep. And that's something we can definitely chat about that a little bit more. Cheetos, you hit the nail on the head there. But I was going to ask next. Um, what is the plan with launch? Like, are you guys live? Are you guys going live soon? What's the timeline for everything?
Right now, we're really just starting to build our community and kind of get out there. This is actually the first AMA we've done for Mosh.
Mhm.
So really glad to be able to do it with Cardinal House. Appreciate you guys having us on.
Mhm.
But really, we're sort of just kicking off the marketing now. We don't have like a set advertised launch date for our first drop yet. Um, but I would say in the coming weeks.
Gotcha, gotcha. Good stuff. That's definitely some exciting stuff. Have you guys gotten artists already on board, or is that something you're starting to do now?
We do have some artists onboarded. We're onboarding more and more, every day and looking for, additional rights holders who want to partner with us. So,
Hmm.
um, if anyone is listening, please reach out if you want to get involved.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, and then what kind of updates are you guys expecting in the upcoming months? Is there anything? Or are you guys like, oh, we're ready to go? Just the artists now are needed, or do you guys have other updates that you're really trying to roll out in the next few months that you can talk about? I'm not sure what you have available public.
I think the big focus over the next 2 months is just really, um, making people aware of this offering. Um,
Hmm.
like we really just started reading and just started, inviting people into our Discord. So I think we're still at the point where basically nobody who's not like a friend of the founders or something like knows about this. So as far as like the platform or artists, like we're pretty much good to go on that. It's all built out. It's really just um, getting the word out to a point where we would think it'd be a successful launch.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, that definitely makes sense. I think that's really all the questions I had to dive into with you today. Um, if I am missing anything, uh, Kim made a Kim made a statement. Talking about a partnership with labels. Is there anything specific to that you want to kind of touch on?
Yeah, sure. So the label that we partner with so far, they go by Intercat Music Group. They're based out of Miami. They do a lot of like Spanish music, reggaeton, Latin urban. So we're in discussions with them on the best way that we can work together and kind of leverage our individual networks and capabilities to create some really cool products with them.
Gotcha,
And then
gotcha. Well,
and
good.
I was gonna say these guys have been in like the music tech industry for I think 10 or 20 years, so they're a pretty
Yeah,
established label out there.
yeah. So would it be bringing their artists to your platform? Is that kind of what you guys are trying to work out?
Yep, exactly that. They have a large catalog from all the distribution and label activities that they've done over the years.
Hmm.
So just finding the best way that we can partner and leverage
Yeah,
that.
gotcha. And I'm sure that a lot of labels would be willing to work with you guys because you have the music experience, at least a good chunk of it, as well as all the back end to actually implement this stuff. So I could definitely see you guys hitting it off with a bunch of groups. There's a couple connections that I think you guys would what people that would really like kind of chatting with you guys. Which we'll talk about that later, but yeah, that is some exciting stuff, especially on the label front since you guys are already in talks.
Yep. Hopefully, like you said, more labels are interested. I think that It makes a lot of sense from a label's perspective to partner with us.
Hmm.
I would actually consider myself more like at this point a Web3 NFT native than like a music industry native, even though I kind of started off in the music and I've done
Hmm.
so much more with NFTs in the past couple of years, and it's I've live and breathe tokens and Twitter and all that now. So I think that kind of offloading some of that learning curve that labels might have if they're trying to like
Yeah.
train their in-house staff on what a Pepe is, or something like that they might see on Twitter. We're able to kind of come in and bridge that gap and help them enter Web3 in a thoughtful way.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, that sounds good. That sounds good, man. I'm certainly excited to keep in touch with you guys and kind of see where everything goes. Um, but for right now, if you guys are in the audience and it's piqued your interest, please go check out their Discord. Cheetos dropped it. Mosh, I really appreciate you for coming on, man. I'm sure we'll have a chat again, and I'll have to talk to you about getting you on a Twitter space as well.
Hey, I would love that, and thanks so much for having me on here, and thanks to everyone for connecting.
Yeah, for sure, of course. But anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in. We will catch you all later in our next AMA or Twitter space. Mosh, it was a pleasure, man. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Chip, likewise, thanks, and thanks everyone.